Hello, welcome. This is Punk Rock Show Off. I'm Brandon Judd. Welcome to another edition of Album Anniversaries. These are albums that have birthdays this year in 2024. Today we'll be covering albums that are turning 40, so they were all released in 1984. Now, these are all punk albums. I always put an asterisk next to it because your definition may differ. The definition has certainly changed over time, especially since 1984. My definition changes. Let's just agree to disagree on that if we have to. Otherwise, we can fight in the comments. Now, another thing that has come up is release dates. So, some of these albums, the internet sources say they were released in 1984 or 1985 sometimes. Now, as far as I can gather, what I can see with like the Black Flag releases is maybe they had a batch that they took on tour with them. They weren't really distributed until 1985, etc. Not every punk band had a documentarian like Johnny Ramone writing down every date and the stuff they did in a notebook through their entire career. So sometimes we don't know. I don't know if SST Records had good records or not. It's hard to tell. So anyway, let's get to it. And you'll notice the theme. We might call 1984 the year of Black Flag. So the first album is My War. This is their second album. A lot of great stuff on it. Not a bad track. I think it's really amazing. I'm going to see them play this year. Now, there comes more debate. Am I seeing Black Flag? Well, I'm seeing Greg Ginn play guitar and a bunch of other people. Mike Vallely is the vocalist now. I hear he does a good job. I've seen Black Flag in several different incarnations. I've seen them with multiple lineups. They had so many different lineups throughout their career. Who knows? It's a real Ship of Theseus type thing going on. Now, also turning 40 is their third album, Family Man. Now, I don't have that one. I'm sorry. I just haven't gotten it yet. That's the other caveat to this, is it's got to be something from my collection. So there's plenty of albums turning 40 this year that aren't in my collection. I don't have them yet. There's a lot that I plan to get. Hey, time, money, we'll see what happens. So next up is their fourth album, Slip It In. Again, I can't say a bad thing about any Black Flag records, except for maybe that one in 2013, but again, everything here, Black Flag gives it their all. It's hard-hitting, it is aggressive. You can't beat it. Put on a Black Flag record, everyone will love it. So Black Flag released 3 studio albums in 1984 and a live album, Live 84. This captures Black Flag's live energy really well. It's got tracks everywhere from Damaged up to what they had released up to this point. I love it. There's nothing better than Black Flag live. So there's a story from back in the day. I think it might have been written about in Henry Rollins' Get in the Van book. I forget where it came from. But they were showing up to shows, and Henry Rollins was bummed out that there would be only like 5 people at some shows, and so he would just try to phone it in. Well, Greg Ginn, I say Ginn now, some people say Jen. It's sort of the Ian MacKaye name game of Black Flag. Greg Ginn took him aside and he said, look, these kids paid their $5 or whatever to see us. They came to see Black Flag. You're supposed to give them Black Flag. You need to give them Black Flag. Do not give them anything less. Now, Black Flag stories about them rehearsing something like 12 hours a day, every day in a shed. Greg Ginn was sort of a drill sergeant when it came to practicing. It really shows when they play live. Everything is really tight. Everything sounds good. I'm pretty sure Henry Rollins took that little conversation to heart, and he often gave everyone Black Flag. I wish that I could give people Black Flag, but I cannot. Up next, the Cardiacs. Now, this band, still treated as kind of an obscure band, but I think they're really incredible. The best way I can describe them is like if Dillinger Escape Plan played show tunes. They have that amount of technicality in their musicianship. It's just incredible. Now this album, tough call. So sources say 1984, but I guess before that there was a demo cassette circulating around. I'm told that this is demos. Their history is hard to track. I had a tough time with this one, and I'm new to the Cardiacs, so I would say I'm a fan of the Cardiacs, but I've only been so for like maybe 2 years, so I can't tell you firsthand how this came to be, but it's been repackaged and re-released. Everything on here, I consider it mind-blowing. The way these people play their instruments is just incredible, and they don't put together basic melodies. It's all very advanced and complex. And the end product is pretty delightful. Like I said, Dillinger Escape Plan playing show tunes. Also turning 40 this year, again, not a punk album, but we'll say punk adjacent. Who doesn't love thrash? And who doesn't love Ride the Lightning? I saw Metallica twice. Earlier in the year, they played maybe half this album live. Pretty great stuff. I don't know what else to say about Metallica. Those first 4 albums, you can't beat them. Next, turning 40 this year, Minutemen, Double Nickels on the Dime. A landmark album from this band, a landmark album in all of punk rock. These two dudes, D. Boon, Mike Watt, I don't know. If you see the documentary We Jam Econo, they just seem like two country idiots who figured out how to play their guitars. There's a really funny thing in there that Mike Watt was talking about when he was saying, yeah, when we got guitars, we didn't know about tuning them. We just thought some people like to play their strings tight, some people like their strings loose. Well, I'm glad they figured it out because this album is really great. Minutemen went on to create a great legacy. Of course, we lost D. Boon early on in this. Who knows what he could be doing now, but Mike Watt has certainly made a name for himself. I actually got to see him play with Iggy Pop maybe 10 years ago. Great guy. Also released in 1984, the Ramones, Too Tough to Die. This one, somebody scribbled on it, but that person who scribbled on it was the drummer who played on this album, Richie Ramone. So that is one of the Ramones I have met. I've met 3 of them. Unfortunately, we keep losing Ramones. We don't have enough of them. Now, Ramones of the 80s. Sometimes they get a bad rap. They had changed quite a bit since their first 4 albums that came out in the late 70s, which are awesome. Ramones are my favorite band. I can't say enough positive things about the Ramones. The 80s era is actually one of my favorite eras. I think there's a lot of great stuff on here. There's also Dee Dee fronted songs through here, and if you hop into the demos, you can hear Richie sing on some songs as well. Too Tough to Die. Unfortunately, we know that's not true. Up next, also turning 40, everyone's gonna feel old with some of these. Samhain, again, debate, Samhain, whatever, however you want to say it. I say Samhain, I think it's easier. Look at it, so much easier. Samhain Initium, the first album from this band. This isn't really a Danzig, I wouldn't call it a side project. This is basically proto Danzig metal. This bridges the gap between Misfits and Danzig as we would come to know him as he is today. Now, the stories go that Danzig wasn't really happy with the way the Misfits were going and how they were playing. He wanted to have something more metal, more technical, more complex. Now here, Samhain, still fairly loose band when they play. You can tell some of the stuff. The production is weird. I think oftentimes Danzig would look to things like drum machines and stuff like that to fill things in. Also, who knows, you get different reissues of things. It gets overdubbed by him on a bunch of stuff. Now, this hasn't been reissued at all since then. Thank you, Bootleg Market. I have a complete Samhain discography. They are all bootlegs, but we're thankful for it. Supposedly, Danzig has given tapes, master tapes from Samhain to bootleggers to unofficially release these. That is just a rumor, but I gotta say, the bootleg market for Samhain, pretty good. There's quality stuff out there you can get if you want it. Danzig, sue me if you must, but people want to hear these albums. Put them out again. And last but not least from my collection, turning 40. Okay. Weird Al. Weird Al is a perfect person. He's a perfect individual, perfect artist. I can't say any bad words about him. I don't think anyone can, except for maybe Coolio, but I think they made up just because this guy is such a nice guy. Now, punk rock. Okay, is Weird Al punk? Look, the guy has made a 5-decade career out of parody songs. Not only that, all of these albums have lots of original songs too. This guy is punk as fuck. Weird Al is punk rock. I'm saying it here. I don't care what you think. Okay, that was a rundown of punk with an asterisk albums turning 40 from my collection. Again, those 2 caveats I want to point out, but guess what? We can argue about it. I'm going to be marking these anniversaries as they happen in real time on my Instagram. You can follow on Punk Rock Show Off. You can keep up with these videos. I'm going to release them every few days for probably the next month, just covering anniversaries, 5-year increments, and we can talk about what's punk, what isn't punk or not. So until then, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Hop on Instagram. I post there more frequently than YouTube, so let's keep tabs with each other. We can even argue there if you want.